Welcome to episode 61 of I Thought I Knew How, a podcast about knitting and life and all sorts. I'm your host, Anne Frost, and this episode was recorded on July 1st, 2021, and on June 14th, 2021, because I have an interview for you today. I had a conversation a few weeks ago with Kel Bachus, the founder of the Fiberworld Show. We talk about fibercrafting, online festivals, living abroad, and the upcoming Fiberworld Festival due to hit your internets on July 21st through the 25th, 2021. Before we begin, thank you to my newest patron, Melanie, for supporting the show over at patreon.com/I Thought I Knew How. Patrons pay the bills for this project and receive some benefits in return. Check those out on Patreon. And thank you to CL1324 for leaving kind comments with your 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts. CL1324 isn't even a knitter, and they still listen to the show. That just blows my mind. Thanks a bunch for that. So today's interview is with Kel Bachus, as I mentioned before. Kel has worked as a game designer, is currently a professor of game design at Champlain College, is the owner of 100 Ravens Yarn Company, and was the driving force behind the online Fiberworld Show. The upcoming event is July 1st through the 25th, and I will be a presenter in the festival with a talk about traveling as a knitter. The event is jam-packed with instructors and presenters. So far, I was just on the website, there's 131 classes to choose from. Many of the people are presenting topics that aren't things you see in an average festival, so I encourage you to go have a look at fiberworldshow.com. And in the meantime, please enjoy this chat with Kel Bachus. So, Kel, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I wanted to start at the beginning with you and find out how you got started in Fibercraft.
I think I was about 7 years old. I was on a train going from London to Edinburgh. And it's a very, very long train ride. It's a really long, boring train ride. It goes through farms. And, I was 7. I was rattling around. And it was just in the train car. It was only myself, my mom, and my dad, and then a pair of elderly Scottish ladies. And they were both knitting. And this is back in the day when everyone was using acrylic yarn from Woolworths. And these huge, long, aluminum knitting needles. They looked like weapons. They were enormous. And I was, restless. I had finished my book, which was always bad news. So the ladies invited me over to sit between them and taught me how to knit. And when they were done with me, by the time we arrived in Edinburgh, I knew how to knit. And because they were Scottish and didn't think twice about it, they taught me to knit 2-strand instead of single strand. So I arrived in Scotland learning how to knit two-handed when I was 7, which is funny because then I promptly forgot. But it kind of stayed with me, and that was always... Crafts growing up were always a thing I had. I grew up all over the world and didn't have any siblings, so I was a weird kid. And so I did a lot of crafting growing up, and I just sort of stayed and picked it up in high school again, put it down, and then picked it up really for real because of Ravelry 20 years ago, something like that. Yeah, and then, or whenever Ravelry started, I was a pretty early user, and then kind of never looked back, started dyeing. I was doing it for fun, and then that turned into a business, as it does. And and it just snowballed.
So what was it about Ravelry that got you to pick up Fibercrafts again?
It was a bunch of stuff. Ravelry was a really smart community of people. I kind of fell into these groups of primarily women who were highly educated, highly smart, and just really cool. And I really like that. I've been in online communities for years, so that felt good too. And I just wanted to be like them. So I started crafting more. And then it also caught my imagination. It's all about arts and stuff like that. And there's the Harry Potter house cup. And I'm not a particular Harry Potter fan, but the premise is that you have semesters, and you sort of, each class is a knitting project, and they give you prompts based on the books. And I was so caught up with that. It was so much fun. So I did that, and it was fun. There was just good communities, good conversations, and it really inspired me. Seeing what people were doing inspired me. And I was, of course, had just started dyeing too. So that just snowballed. Ravelry was really magical for me in a lot of ways, just because of the quality of the people there.
You mentioned your dyeing. You are the owner of 100 Ravens.
Yep.
Which I think many of my listeners will be familiar with. How did that transition happen from hobby to business?
So it wasn't supposed to happen. I dyed some yarn and really liked it. And my friend, Tracy Seamster, who worked with me at the time at ZeniMax on Elder Scrolls Online, Tracy said, "Oh, I'll have some of that, right?" So I gave her some, and then she said, "Well, I'd like some more." And then we had another friend there where there were three of us who were non-cis men who worked at ZeniMax as writers and designers. We were it. For a while, it was just Tracy and I huddling together for warmth. But we all knitted. That was part of what we did. And we would sit at lunch and knit together and be roundly mocked by our coworkers. Yeah. So, and then Anna wanted some yarn, and then they went to knit night somewhere, and then those people wanted yarn, and people said, "Well, we'll just, we'll buy it from you. Just put something up, put something up on Etsy. I put it wasn't even like a real product. It was just like I put something there so people could pay me for the yarn that they were taking. And it's just, I don't know what happened. Then I had an Etsy shop and I was selling and people were buying stuff, and I don't know. And then now I have like a business, and we've been in business for a while now. So I don't know. I started going to farmers markets just locally, and people got to know me locally, and they became very, very devoted customers, people who are still with us today and still buy a ton of yarn from us. And I don't think we could have really started without those folks from the farmers markets. I did kind of the little farmers market circuit, and they were like, we did a yarn show, and that just about killed us, because it was back in the days when we really didn't know how to dye in bulk. We didn't have that crafts knowledge yet. Of course, now we've perfected things, but back then it was sort of like, oh my God, I dyed 60 skeins of yarn. That's crazy. And now it's like hundreds and hundreds, and we think nothing.
Oh, wow.
We're not automated in any way. It's just efficiency. And then there we were, and it was, the fiber arts world is really unique. There are men in it. There are certainly straight men. There are, queer men. There's, a diversity of people inside of it, but it is primarily women's socialized, women's culture run. And it's very interesting to me because it's really different than other business communities I've been in. Things are done by discussion, collaboration, by mutual permission. There's a lot of talk. You're expected to share. And that can be good and bad, depending if you're used to competitive business and keeping your secrets, which nobody really does. That can be a little disconcerting. The sense of competition isn't there. And that's also just because of the structure too. Sort of all boats rise anyway. But it's been interesting to me now coming back to regular business and certainly academia to sort of balance what I learned in that culture about how to communicate, within a business world where there's a lot of small businesses involved. And I was actually a lot of valuable lessons. It was still is a really good community to be in. And that's, it's like Ravelry. It's sort of like, we're among the people we want to hang out with, people like you, smart, educated, cool people who have done amazing things. When I say educated, I don't just mean like college educated. I mean, people who have had experiences, done things, taken it upon themselves to learn and grow. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. I had an experience the other day where someone asked me to do something for them and wanted me to name a price. And I was like, I don't know, would this much be okay? And they were like, no, you need to charge us way more than that.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, what other business environment would that happen? Where someone would say, no, you're undervaluing yourself, and understand why, as a woman who has been out of the workforce while I raise my kids, like, I don't know what to ask for, and then for them to validate that. Yeah.
Right. And it's exactly like that, somebody will come to a yarn show and their stock doesn't arrive, and it arrives late, and now they've got half an hour till shows start, and literally everyone will drop what they're doing and run over to that person's booth and help them set their booth up and sit them down while they cry and give them some tea, and and we know each other, and we're kind of up in each other's business. But in the way of small communities, there's good and bad with that. It also means that people kind of need to mind their PDQs, that you manage your reputation and you're scrupulous because word travels fast. And that means if somebody misbehaves, it gets corrected, and I like that. I don't know if it's for everyone or not, but I certainly like it. And, it's like family too. It's like kind of Carney's the best of being with the circus without smelly. Oh no, wait, we do have smelly animals. Never mind. Well, it's weirdly similar now.
That's like a dissertation waiting to happen, I think.
Right. No, I mean, I think it is. I'd be curious to know really if there's been a comparison of worlds, and yeah.
Well, I was on the website earlier and I was flipping through your bases, and it looked like almost all of them are named for goddesses.
Usually, yeah, most of them. Yeah, most of them. I don't even really know how that started. It's like it's also back in the past. It's sort of like I think at one point I named something, and then not all of them are that way, but yeah, the majority of them are.
Mm-hmm.
Becca, my wife, and I both grew up expatriate kids. So a lot of our yarn, but pretty much all of the yarn bases are named after gods and goddesses from places we've been. So, or mythical figures.
Mm-hmm.
So she lived in Greece, I lived in Burma, she lived in the Philippines, I lived in Ghana, Samoa.
Me too.
You came from I was reading that you came from the Philippines as well. That's awesome.
Yeah, my kids were raised there, basically. We were there nearly 9 years, yeah.
Wow. I think it's really good for kids to, live in a couple different places and experience, more than one culture.
Mm-hmm.
And, learn that, wow, hey, there's really different ways of living and doing things. And I think it's a good thing. So how old are your kids now?
16 and 18.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, you're where we are with that. They're like kind of.
Yeah, they were 6 and 4 when we moved there.
Oh, wow. So they really, they had their formative years. That's nice too, because like they were born in the States, I presume, and then moved there, mm-hmm. and then they had that experience for a good long time and came back.
Yeah.
I think it's good, and it's different than like 1 year or, certainly vacations are good, but it's really not the same as being there. So
yeah, I highly recommend it. Anyone listening, give it a go.
Yeah. Raise your kids, and it doesn't have to be, in a different country, I think is good. In a different country with radically different culture is better, and lifestyles. It's good for them. And to go to the schools there with not just, other white kids. If your kids are white, then they should go hang out with some other kids, and if your kids aren't white, then, like what I'm saying, it's like, it's good. And it's good to learn different languages too, because once you learn, it's easy. Like I find it's pretty easy for me to pick up languages, and
they build off one another. One more thing I wanted to mention that I thought was really awesome about 100 Ravens is that you have the Anytime Advent calendar or the Anytime Advent.
Yeah,
I think that is a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't think we were the first. I think other people have done it, but we did a steampunk one. We did Hanukkah. We did Christmas. We figured like anything you're counting down to, and that's why we have the Anytime one. So like, for instance, if someone's got a run of chemo, they could have one for each day of their chemo. If someone's getting ready to go do something exciting, they could have a count up for that or whatever. So little mini skeins of yarn and little treats and prizes. The steampunk ones were in cute little bags, and then there were charms and little keys and steampunky trinkets. And yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. Oh, and they were sealed up with sealing wax. I think they did. Becca did one for Halloween as well. I think there was 13 for Halloween. So, they're fun. And I love little surprises.
Yeah.
So if you look out there, there's other yarn companies that do them. Yeah, and they do. There's some great ones. I'm like looking at other people's like, I want one.
So I assume with your dye business that you, when all the COVID-19 lockdowns happened, that you were affected by that, like so many other fiber vendors, but you took that time and energy and put it into starting Fiberworld.
Yeah, it's really hard. One of the things that we know, again, from being in the community is that most people who do fiber are either making some living from it or all their living from it, or they're the second income, but also necessary income. For farms, it is their income. There's few really big businesses, and those that are out there, there's a handful, right? There's Tosh, there's, Babs, and arguably even Babs I still consider kind of small, relatively speaking, Webs, and, there's the distributors. But, one bad season can mean the end of a business, even a couple of bad months, especially when people are just starting out. And there's a little bit of a learning curve too. So new businesses are especially at risk. And, we were just aware that people couldn't go to fiber shows. And at that point, entire incomes and livelihoods and businesses were going to be at risk. And we would probably do okay. We're, big-ish, but we thought there had to be some way to do this. And I've been involved in virtual stuff, as I said, online communities. And as a game developer, always thinking about, interactive experiences. and designing them in a way that doesn't recreate life, but creates a new way of interacting, a new way of doing things that's fun and rewarding and entertaining in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we kind of went at Fiberworld. And, I'm a professor at Champlain College. We have amazing students there. It's a great program. We have 4 game majors, 5 game majors, something like that. So students actually major in each discipline. So we do game art, game design, game programming, etc. And these students are exceptional. They were among some of the most in demand in the industry when they graduate. And I said, I'm gonna do this. You guys want to help me out with this? And I put together a team of students who were kind of, intrigued at the idea. And with a team of a handful of students, we created Fiberworld over like a couple of months in the summer. It was breakneck. We used WordPress and an insane sort of Frankensteinian combination of WordPress plugins. And we did it. And we thought it was going to be kind of small. And, towards the end, we had, staff coming on and people doing stuff. And it was like growing and growing. We're like, oh my God, what's happening? It's happening, And oh no, as Becca says, let's put on a show in the old barn. And then people showed up and we're like, we had vendors signed up and instructors signed up, and it was like, this is actually going to happen. People are enthusiastic about it. And I think we thought we were going to have a couple hundred people, and that was going to be cool. And we had a couple thousand. And we thought we were going to make, a little bit of money, and we made a fair bit amount of money. And we were interested to see where it was and wasn't a success. Again, we slammed it together with sort of, the electronic equivalent of sticky tape. And some stuff held and some stuff didn't. Customers, vendors, everybody was so patient with us while we worked out the kinks in the middle of the show, in some cases. But it was also amazing because we realized that what Fiberworld gave everyone was access. And it was at a time when people were really talking about access, when they were talking about privilege, when we're talking about who gets to come to Fiber, who gets to be seen at Fiber, who's here, whose voices are heard. And we could really examine that and shake things up deliberately as we reframed the access to different definitions. And it was really cool. It was a way to bring voices that were already there more to the forefront, and introduce people who are used to seeing the same old beloved people at Fiber festivals to some new people that they don't normally see. And especially for the American audience, we don't see people from overseas. And for people overseas, they don't have access to, in many cases, some of the cool, smaller instructors and speakers and vendors. So we really wanted to mix it up, and that did happen. Not to the extent we wanted, and every year we're building it to be more and more like this, but definitely a good first start. And yeah, we were just blown away, and we were blown away mostly by everyone's, like I said, everyone's fun and patience and sort of going along with it when it was kind of a wing and a prayer. And it came off really, really, really well. And I think the vendors and the folks who had a good experience had previously had a robust online audience. Mm-hmm. And those who didn't, or who weren't practiced in bringing along an online audience, I think struggled a little bit more. It was interesting to see where people could fit into the online experience, and where we didn't, where we needed to facilitate, where we didn't facilitate as well as we could, where we facilitated well, those kinds of things, So lots of lessons. And now we've just completely thrown everything up in the air, and we're retooling the whole thing and taking everything we learned and doing it better for this year.
Yeah, and it's coming up soon, July 21st through 25th. So a few weeks after this will air. And I've noticed on the website that there have been some upgrades or changes to the event. Do you want to talk about what people can expect from the upcoming show?
We're definitely doing some stuff different. We originally had individual instructor pages for each of the instructors. Now we've changed that. We have 4 classrooms. We're rotating our instructors through those classrooms. It's going to be a lot easier to find your class, get to your class. We have good scheduling. Hopefully people's schedules are going to be available on their profile. We have 1 stage now instead of the 2 stages. And that's going to be great because we're not going to have competing content, and everyone will have access. Yeah, and then I guess the other thing is a more coherent experience is what we're going for, short and long term. We want all the technology to work, things to be really intuitive and easy for people. We still want the one-on-one. So one of the things that people didn't realize was that at Fiberworld, When we have vendors, it's not like vendors have what people are used to now with the virtual shows is vendors will have like a little show. They'll have like an episode. They'll have like, a hour-long talk. And that might be a little bit interactive because it might be a Zoom call. And I think people were a little bit burned out on those. The way that we intended the vendor experience to be is every vendor has their own page, and that's their quote unquote booth at the festival. And when you visit the vendor page at Fiberworld, you're visiting their booth, and you're basically quote unquote walking into the booth. And you will walk into, if the booth is open, you'll walk into the booth and the vendor will be there, and you can talk to them one-on-one. And there might be other customers there, and you can chat with those customers. And the vendor may be doing a demonstration or something like that, or they may just be waiting for someone to show up in their booth and have a chat. And then you'll be able to look at products that are on their page that they're specifically featuring for Fiberworld, things they want you to know, show colorways, stuff that's, they've got a special deal on, whatever that is. And then you can click through those products and go to their actual website. But the cool thing about it is that where normally you're surfing a vendor's website blind, and then you have this sort of separated, you've heard them talk. This is an integration of the two, where you can be looking at their website and talking to the vendor at the same time about what's there. And, oh, what about this? What's this? Oh, what if I buy this and this? Do you think this will match with this, right? And all of these things that we like to ask in a booth, or, people, what we love, and this is what we missed, was people bringing their stuff that they made with our yarn and showing us, and you can do that. You can bring it to the vendor and show it to them and in the booth. And that was really the experience that we wanted to create. And we're still working on crafting that really seamlessly and well. I know a couple of vendors are talking about doing shopping appointments where they're gonna, a customer can come and schedule 15 minutes, half an hour, 20 minutes, whatever. And the vendor will work with them to shop at something, just one-on-one. You have a little bit of time to do that. So that's the kind of experience that we're going for. We have really small classes so that the instructor can really work with the students in the class and have conversations. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're pushing towards. And then we have the big thing is, it's kind of funny because some of the changes are just making it a little bit better and more usable, things like that. A lot of the stuff the users aren't going to see, it's going to be underneath. We've built our own platform. We spent a year developing a platform that will be way more secure, way more robust, and better integrated with all the video, all of the stuff that we're doing. And it'll be much easier to navigate, and all your data will be much safer. We love WordPress, but we can do it better. So, yeah. So that's part of what we're doing. And then we had promised a library. We're still developing a library too, so that when you take a class or you see a lecture, if we have permission and agreement with whoever's done it, then you'll be able, with your membership at Fiberworld, you'll continue to get access to those materials after the show's over. So lots of cool stuff like that.
That's awesome. That's a great benefit. This time you have two hosts, Gigi Glassby and Amy Singer. How do they function at Fiberworld? What is it that they'll be doing?
So the hosts we're really excited about our hosts, first of all. The hosts are the MCs. They are the face of Fiberworld for that year. They are members of the community that we look at as ambassadors of fiber, of the voices and faces and personalities and histories of fiber, people that we want to get to know better. So they'll be featured. We'll have interviews with them. They will also interview other people. We'll have events that include them. They will host our fashion show. And you'll probably have time to have a tea with them or some kind of fun event with them, like a party where you'll also get to meet them and talk to them, hopefully. So lots of good stuff like that.
Wonderful. And then I saw also there is a sheep to micro shawl competition this time.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't even know. Somebody else is running that. Yeah, I think they're going to run it though. I think you're going to have a certain amount of time and people are going to go through the whole process. So that's really exciting.
And incredible.
And we really want, we want people to see the good thing about, and we've talked about this, in the context of COVID and all the awfulness and how weird it was to have to exist online and whatever. We also learned cool stuff about people and their homes and their families and their pets. And we want to keep doing that. I want to know what Franklin's kitchen looks like, right? And so I'm trying to talk Franklin Habit this year into giving a tour of his kitchen because I want to know, and we can do that online. It's like, come on, Franklin, just show us around your kitchen. I want to see it. What do you got in there? So it's stuff like that, that we can see people in their environments. Last year, Abby Frankelmont did great stuff on site where she was. And that was really exciting. It was exciting for people to get to see that. So yeah, that's part of it for sure.
Are there any of the, now I ask this as someone who also does a festival. So I know that like while it's going on, you don't necessarily have the time to take part in it yourself because you're running everything.
Yeah.
But are there any of the classes or presentations that you're hoping to hop into yourself?
Yes. We had an incredible class last year. Andre, and I can't remember his last name. He taught a lace by music. He teaches a Portuguese lace class, but then he teaches a lace by music class, and I'm dying to take that class. I've heard that it was fantastic last year. I was actually signed up for it and wasn't able to take it. So super stoked about that class. Definitely an Intarsia one I want to take because I love all things Intarsia. So I'm sure there's more, and we have tons of great presentations and stuff too. And of course, I'll be doing Not Yoga once again for those of us who have a sense of humor. That'll be funny anyway. It'll be entertaining. I don't know about good. Good maybe like, maybe not good, but entertaining.
One of the things I think that's also adorable about Fiberworld is that you have a series of mascots. Why bother having mascots with an online event?
I don't even know. It's out of control. I don't know what happened here. I had no part in this. Well, I don't know. I don't know if anybody saw it last year because I talked Franklin into terrible things. No, it was great. I had a student animator from Champlain who was able to help Franklin Abbott animate Dolores. And that might have been the start of it. I don't know. So Dolores did this great video that, oh my God, amazing. And we're hoping to have another appearance by her this year, hopefully. But yeah, and then all of a sudden we have mascots. I don't know where they came from, but we have Brioche, who's a Angora rabbit, and she's the PR and attendee mascot. And then we have Heddle the yak, who's the vendor mascot, and then Spindle the goat, who's a lounge mascot. And then Lanolin, who's a merino sheep. Lanolin is in charge of classes. And then Bats, who's the BFL sheep. And all the rel to stage. Very, I don't even know. You asked me how this happened. I like all of a sudden and not only like one mascot, we have like five. Cute. They're really cute though.
But they're cute, and I love if you go to the Fiberworld Show page and go under About Fiberworld, you can find the link to the mascots, and they have like little questionnaires that they filled out, and so they each have their own personality, and it's very cute.
They do, and they'll be around at the show. You will see the mascots in various ways. I think. We had a lot of giveaways at the last Fiberworld, and I think we're going to do a bunch this year too. I know that the vendors are eager to participate, and I think the mascots may be helping us with some giveaways. We may have some little scavenger hunts or something on the website. So definitely when you come to Fiberworld, stay tuned for that stuff.
What are your plans for Fiberworld going forward? Is this going to continue? Is it going to continue online? Is it going to eventually become a real a meat space activity?
A meat space. This is how I know you read science fiction. Throwing that Gibson reference. That was amazing. Yeah, no, I don't think we ever have any intentions of making it meat space. The whole point was to create something that wasn't just an instead of, that we wanted to take the opportunity to make something that was really what it was. And I think the long-term goal is to keep running this yearly, as long as people keep showing up and enjoying it too. I mean, that's a lot of it too. It depends a lot on the customers and the vendors. If it's useful to people, if you build it, they'll come. No, I think if it's useful to people, they will show up and they will enjoy it. And as long as they do, we'll do that. I think the benefits are, as we gain more global outreach, and this is part of what you're doing too, right? Is that you're reaching out to different areas and basically bringing in different areas. And that was our hope too, was to sort of globalize our entire sort of industry globally instead of just regionally. And then And then people who do craft together in Ravelries, primarily American English speaking, although there are, other communities and other folks on there, but reaching out and bringing everybody together. And I've long been saying that I want it to be a rolling show where we have sort of a segment from each, I won't say time zone, but, each sort of area that we sort of roll around the globe. And it's a around the clock event with, sort of different channels and stuff like that. That's, down the road. But we'll keep reaching out, and if people know of people in their area that they want to participate in this, that's what we want. We want different languages, we want different instructors. So I think that's the long-term goal, and just to keep making it relevant and interesting to a wider and wider group of people.
Just hearing back from people who have done my festival, like the feedback is, please keep it going, because there are so many people who can't make it to in-person festivals, and so to have the option to be able to hop in for 2 or 3 hours without having to fly across country or even just leave your responsibilities for the day.
Yeah, I mean, that's really it. And it was a lot about that as well, that, that the people who can afford to go to a fiber festival, because you have to travel and you have to, rent a hotel room and you have to pay for your food and all of this, all that costs money. So there's a money accessibility there, but there's also a physical accessibility. We have a lot of customers, a lot of friends in the fiber community whose mobility is, limited. And some of the fiber festivals, do their best job at sometimes, health, mobility, whatever, you can't make it, or you get there and then you realize you're not going to be okay. And now you're 300 miles away from home, and now what, right? And so, so for all kinds of reasons, and as you said, some people can't leave their jobs, some people can't leave their kids, their pets, their farms, whatever. So it really is about that, and people being able to drop in and have access to it and access to the community and not be cut off from the community as well. And and in some ways it follows a lot on what Ravelry originally appealed to me about Ravelry, was that sense of, community and people coming together and cool people that you want to meet, but then instead of just one area, it's all over the place. So yeah, definitely about that.
Well, Kel, thank you very much again for coming on the show. I'm very much looking forward to the event. Before we sign off, can you point people to where they can find out more about Fiberworld?
Absolutely. And thank you, by the way. This has been really fun. I appreciate it. It's always fun to talk about this stuff. Fiberworldshow.com. Everything you need to know is there. We also have a Facebook page. We have Instagram. We have Twitter. We have all those things. But you can get to all those things from the fiberworldshow.com page. And all the information about the shows there. You can register right now. You can sign up for classes. And we do recommend signing up for classes soon, because as we get closer to shows, those classes fill up. We filled all of our classes last year. It was amazing. And we filled them within a few days. The timeline was a little compressed, but so get in there and grab your classes because they're fantastic this year.
Thank you again to Kel for taking the time to chat with me about the Fiberworld Show. It really was a joy to get to know them. Again, the address for Fiberworld is fiberworldshow.com, and I encourage you to have a look and make your plans sooner rather than later because classes are filling up. The ticket to get into the show is $25, and that includes all of the more public events, including the lectures and presentations. Classes are a further $50 to $100, and as I said, there's 131 classes to choose from. Knit New Haven is the perfect start or endpoint for those of you doing the I91-Shop Hop this summer. The shop carries yarns at various price points for knitters, but their selection of premium and luxury yarns are my favorite part of their inventory. I left the shop with a ball of Clinton Hill cashmere that is my new pet. It lives on my desk, and I hold it from time to time and dream of the adventure we will go on together one day. Check out their website at knitnewhaven.com and be sure to pop in this summer on your shop hop journey. The Morehouse Merino Flock group has big plans for the coming 6 months. I was just talking to Erin the day before I recorded, and she shared the list with me. Brioche is in there. Time for me to finally learn it. There are also customized shawl projects coming up, a Rhinebeck sweater to knit, and more. Visit morehousemerinoflock.com to learn about this focused, supportive knitting community designed with the knitter in mind. A few more things before I go. Erin and I did a thing. We started a video podcast. It's called That Knitting Show, and you can find it on YouTube as That Knitting Show. We also have accounts on Facebook and Instagram. The Instagram account is that_knitting_show. And I think those are going to be the only places we have social media accounts. There are just too many places to have social media accounts. So find us on Instagram or on Facebook. A few corrections came in from the last episode about Shetland lace. Elizabeth Johnston kindly wrote with a few modifications. First, she pointed out that old shell and old shale are the same pattern. Additionally, the cast-on and bind-off ends of the edgings are actually grafted together, not sewn together. So technically, there are no firm edges to a hap or shawl from Shetland, as the construction relies completely on picking up or grafting stitches. This is something I actually learned in a class with Ann Yunson and Kathleen Anderson at Shetland Wool Week, but I hadn't knit an outward-in shawl since then, so I forgot about it. And finally, she added that often those spinning wool for lace could use the wool from the neck to behind the shoulders on the animal. These corrections just go to show how easily things can be misconstrued, de-emphasized, or forgotten by secondary learners, and how important it is to learn directly from the people who are part of the original continuum of knowledge whenever and however we can. Many, many thanks to Elizabeth for taking the time to send in the corrections. A reminder that Shetland Wool Week will be virtual this year. Talk about an amazing opportunity. The latest news is that a significant update on how the event will take place will be coming in August. If you haven't already, hop over to shetlandwoolweek.com to get on their mailing list. Links for everything, as always, will be in the show notes. I'll be back in a few weeks with another episode. In the meantime, thank you for listening and knitting with me for a bit. If you'd like to support the show, please visit patreon.com/I-thought-I-knew-how to make a monthly pledge. You may also consider making a purchase from one of our sponsors by visiting the website I91-Shop and clicking the link at the top that says Be a Booster. While you are on the site, you can also find the show notes for each episode. Thank you ever so much to my patrons, Knit New Haven and Morehouse Farm for sponsoring the podcast. Find me on my social media accounts as I Thought I Knew How, except on Twitter, where it's just Thought I Knew How. The groups on various platforms are all called I Thought I Knew How Podcast. Until next time, may you be blessed with stitches that never drop, yarn without joins, and plenty of time to knit.